The peace summit on Centauri 9 had been years in the making. Representatives from dozens of civilizations gathered under the crystalline domes of the orbital station, their differences temporarily set aside for the greater good of preventing another galactic war. Dr. Raj Bennett, a field medic from the Human Coalition, stood at his post in the medical wing, watching the proceedings on the holographic feeds with cautious optimism. The Vazari delegation commanded attention wherever they went. Their tall, angular forms moved with predatory grace, metallic implants catching the light as they conversed in their harsh, clicking language. At their head walked Princess Thalara, heir to the Vazari Empire, her silver-white skin bearing the ritual scars that marked her royal lineage. Despite her youth, she carried herself with the authority of one born to rule, her violet eyes surveying the assembled delegates with barely concealed disdain. Raj had studied the Vazari extensively before this assignment. Their strength protocol was infamous throughout the galaxy. The injured and weak were left to die, seen as burdens that weakened the whole. It was a philosophy that made peace negotiations particularly challenging, as they viewed compassion as a human weakness to be exploited. The explosion came without warning. The station's hull buckled as multiple charges detonated simultaneously, sending debris cascading through the corridors. Emergency lights bathed everything in crimson as atmosphere rushed out through thousands of breaches. Raj's medical training kicked in immediately, and he began triaging the wounded as they streamed into the emergency shelter. That's when he found her. Princess Thalara lay pinned beneath a collapsed support beam, her regal bearing replaced by the vulnerability of injury. Dark blue blood, Vazari blood, pooled beneath her, and her left leg was clearly broken. Her delegation was nowhere to be seen. "Princess," Raj called out, rushing to her side, despite the continued rumble of destruction around them. "I'm going to get you out of here." Her violet eyes focused on him with difficulty. "Leave me," she rasped in accented standard. "Our ways. The strong survive. The weak get help." Raj finished firmly, already working to free her from the debris. "Human ways, remember. And right now, we're playing by my rules." The beam was too heavy to lift alone, but Raj managed to free her leg using a piece of twisted metal as a lever. Thalara bit back a cry of pain as he carefully extracted her, her pride clearly warring with her body's distress. "Can you walk?" he asked. "I am Vazari," she replied, as if that answered everything. She tried to stand and immediately collapsed, her broken leg unable to support her weight. Raj scooped her up without ceremony, ignoring her protests. "Then you're a Vazari who's getting a ride. The evacuation pods are compromised. We need to get to the planet's surface and find shelter until rescue arrives." The orbital station was coming apart around them. Through the gaps in the hull, Raj could see the purple-clouded surface of Centauri 9 below. The planet was known to be habitable but dangerous, its surface teeming with predators and toxic flora. It wasn't ideal, but it was their only option for survival. They made it to an escape pod just as another section of the station exploded. Raj strapped Thalara in and launched them toward the planet's surface. The small craft shuddering as it entered the atmosphere. The landing was rough, more of a controlled crash than anything else, but they survived. Centauri 9's surface was worse than the briefings had suggested. The air was breathable, but carried a metallic tang that burned the lungs. Purple vegetation stretched as far as the eye could see, twisted trees with crystalline leaves that seemed to respond to their presence. The gravity was slightly heavier than Earth's standard, making every step an effort. "My people will come for me," Thalara said as Raj helped her from the wreckage. "When they realize I am not among the dead." "Mine too," Raj replied, though he wasn't entirely certain. The attack had been devastating, and rescue operations would prioritize the larger survivor groups. A single human and an injured Vazari princess might not rank high on the list. They needed shelter and medical supplies. The pod's emergency kit contained basic first aid materials, but nothing for major surgery. Raj used what he had to stabilize Thalara's leg, fashioning a crude brace from pod components. Why do you help me? Thalara asked as he worked. Your people and mine have been enemies for generations. Raj paused in his work, considering her question. Because you're hurt and I'm a doctor. It's what I do. Even for those who would leave you to die. Especially then, he said. Maybe that's what makes us different. The first attack came at sunset. They had found a cave system in the crystalline cliffs, its entrance partially hidden by the twisted vegetation. Raj was gathering edible fruit, at least he hoped it was edible, when he heard Thalara's warning cry. Centauri predators were like nothing in Earth's fossil record. The pack that emerged from the purple forest moved on 6 legs, their chitinous bodies, reflecting the dying light like mirrors. Their heads were mostly teeth, and they seemed drawn to the scent of Thalara's blood. Stay back, Raj ordered, positioning himself between the creatures and the injured princess. He had a plasma pistol from the pod, but only 2 charge packs. The beasts circled them, testing their defenses. When they attacked, it was with stunning coordination. 3 came from the front, while 2 flanked them. Raj managed to drop 2 with his pistol before the others reached them. The fight was brutal and brief. Claws and teeth against human determination, and a pistol butt used as a club. They won barely. Raj sported new scars and a painful bite on his shoulder. Thalara, despite her injury, had managed to kill one of the creatures with a piece of sharp crystal, her royal training evident in the precision of her strike. You fight well for a healer, she observed, examining his wounds. You fight well, period, he replied, wincing as she cleaned his bite mark. Her touch was surprisingly gentle for someone raised in such a harsh culture. They moved deeper into the cave system that night, using the creature's remains to mask their scent. The tunnels were carved from the same purple crystal as the surface vegetation, glowing faintly with an inner light that provided minimal illumination. Tell me about your strength protocol, Raj said as they settled in for the night. How does it work? Thalara's expression hardened. The strong protect the empire. The weak drag it down. It is the way it has always been. But you've protected me, Raj pointed out. Fought beside me. Does that make me strong? She was quiet for a long moment. Perhaps strength can be more complex than we believed. Days blended into each other as they made their way across Centauri 9's hostile surface. Raj's medical supplies dwindled as he cared for both their injuries. Thalara's leg was healing slowly, but she still couldn't put her full weight on it. They developed a rhythm. Raj would scout ahead. Thalara would keep watch, and they'd move in short stages when the native predators were least active. The purple forest seemed determined to kill them in 1,000 different ways. Plants that shot paralytic barbs, ground-dwelling creatures that burrowed up from below, atmospheric disturbances that came without warning and turned the air caustic. They survived through a combination of luck, skill, and an increasing trust between them. In my culture, Raj said one evening as they shared a meal of native fruits and emergency rations, we have a saying, no one left behind. It means we don't abandon our own no matter the cost. It is inefficient, Thalara replied, but her tone lacked conviction. Resources spent on the dying could be used to save many more. Maybe, Raj acknowledged, but tell me, if someone had left you under that beam, would the Empire really be stronger without you? The question hung between them in the crystal-illuminated darkness. Their relationship evolved gradually. Shared hardship broke down the barriers between them, and Raj began to see glimpses of the person beneath the royal conditioning. Thalara was intelligent, fiercely loyal to her people, and surprisingly curious about human customs. She had a dry wit that emerged when she was relaxed, and despite her injuries, she never complained about the pain. My brother believes I'm too soft, she told him one day, as they rested beside a stream of surprisingly pure water. Vizoth says the throne requires harder hands than mine. And what do you think? I think perhaps hardness and strength are not the same thing. They made contact with other survivors on the 7th day. A mixed group of humans and Vazari had established a camp in an ancient temple complex, its crystalline structures providing some protection from the planet's dangers. The reunion should have been a relief, but Raj noticed the careful way Thalara was watching her own people. "Something's wrong," she whispered to him as they approached the camp. "Those are Vizoth's guards." The camp was well organized, too well organized for a group of crash survivors. Prince Vizoth emerged from the central structure as they approached. A tall Vazari male whose metallic implants had been upgraded beyond royal standards. His greeting of his sister was cold formal. "Thalara, I had hoped you had died honorably in the crash." "Disappointed, brother." Zoth's violet eyes flicked to Raj, taking in the clear signs of their cooperation. "I see you've been keeping company with inferior species. How very un-Vazari of you." The truth came out that night during what was supposed to be a celebration of their rescue. Vizoth had orchestrated the attack on the Peace Summit, using human-made explosives to make it appear as if Earth was violating the ceasefire. His goal was simple: provoke a war that would allow him to seize power from their weak father and sister. "You killed hundreds." Thalara confronted him, her voice shaking with anger. "Our own people died in that explosion." The weak Vizoth dismissed. "Culling them strengthens the empire." "Father was right to name me heir." "Father is a fool, and you are soft." Vizoth's eyes were cold, calculating. "But you are still my sister. Join me, and we can rule together. Continue this friendship with the humans, and you will be disposed of as an inefficiency." Thalara looked at Raj, then back at her brother. "I choose my own path." The battle lines were drawn that night. Vizoth had the majority of the Vazari survivors under his command, but several younger soldiers sided with Thalara, disturbed by their prince's willingness to kill his own sister. The human survivors unanimously backed Raj and Thalara, recognizing the princess as their best hope for peace. The first attempt on Thalara's life came before dawn. Raj's medical instincts saved them. He'd noticed the unusual smell on the assassin's blade when bandaging a training injury earlier. Vizoth had used a slow-acting poison designed to look like infection from her original wounds. "He wants it to appear that you died from neglect," Raj explained as he administered the antidote from his dwindling medical supplies, to prove his point about the weak. Thalara was quiet for a long time after that. When she spoke, her voice was different, harder, more resolved. "He's right about one thing. This ends now." What followed was a game of cat and mouse across Centauri 9's surface. Vizoth used his superior numbers to force them deeper into the planet's hostile interior, towards regions where the environment itself would do his work for him. The crystalline forests gave way to smoking plains where geysers of toxic gas erupted without warning. The very ground seemed alive with malevolent intent. They lost people along the way. Both human and Vazari fell to the planet's dangers or Vizoth's ambushes. Each death hit Thalara harder than the last, her guilt over her brother's actions weighing heavily on her shoulders. "This is my fault," she said one night as they camped in the ruins of an ancient structure, its purpose lost to time. "My people follow the strength protocol. I should be strong enough to stop this." "Strength isn't about fighting alone," Raj replied. "It's about knowing when to accept help, when to protect others, when to make the hard choices." "And what is the hard choice here?" "You know what it is." Thalara nodded slowly. "I have to kill my brother." The final confrontation came at what the planet's original inhabitants had called the heart of Centauri. It was a vast crystal formation that jutted from the planet's surface like a mountain-sized geode, its faceted walls alive with internal light. Ancient carvings suggested it had been a place of great significance, possibly even the reason the original settlements had failed. Mazith had chosen the location carefully. The crystal formations created a natural amphitheater with multiple levels and platforms connected by narrow bridges. It was defensible, dramatic, and suited to his sense of theater. "Sister," he called out as their forces faced each other across the central chasm. "You could have ruled an empire." Instead, you choose to die for these inferior creatures. I choose to live for something greater than fear, Thalara replied, her voice carrying clearly in the crystalline space. Something greater than the strength protocol. The battle was fierce and chaotic. Vazari fought Vazari, while humans provided support with their different weapons and tactics. The crystal formations amplified every sound, turning the conflict into a symphony of violence. Raj found himself separated from Thalara in the fighting, battling to reach her as she closed in on her brother. Zoth was a skilled warrior, enhanced by his implants, but Thalara had been trained by the same masters. They dueled across the narrow bridges, their weapons sending sparks flying from the crystal surfaces. It was Raj who ended it in the end. As Vizoth prepared to deliver a killing blow to his wounded sister, the human doctor's plasma pistol found its target. The Vazari prince fell into the chasm below, his schemes dying with him. The battle ended abruptly. Without Vizoth's forceful leadership, his followers surrendered or fled. Those who remained looked to Thalara awaiting her judgment. "The old ways die with my brother," she announced, her voice echoing off the crystal walls. "We will find a new path, one that honors both strength and compassion." Rescue came 3 days later. Both human and Vazari fleets had finally negotiated the debris field around Centauri 9. Their search focused on the massive crystal formation that had appeared on their sensors. The political aftermath was complex. Vazoth's betrayal was condemned by the Vazari Council of Lords, but many still questioned Thalara's soft approach. She faced years of internal struggle to reshape her people's culture to prove that strength and compassion could coexist. Raj was offered a position as her personal physician and cultural advisor, a role that would require him to leave his own people and make his home among former enemies. The choice should have been difficult, but it wasn't. "The Vazari have a saying," Thalara told him as they stood on the observation deck of her flagship watching the stars wheel past. "Greater than the sum of their weaknesses is the unity of their strengths." "That doesn't sound very Vazari," Raj observed. "It's new," she admitted with a smile, the first truly relaxed smile he'd seen from her. "I'm still working on the translation." The peace treaty they eventually signed wasn't perfect. There were compromises on both sides, concessions that left some unhappy. But it held mostly because two people had learned that strength came not from what you could take or discard, but from what you were willing to protect. Years later, historians would debate the significance of the Centauri Accords, the political ramifications of Princess Thalara's rise to power, and the cultural changes that swept through the Vazari Empire. But they would miss the most important part of the story, that sometimes peace begins with one person deciding not to leave another behind, even when everything in their culture tells them to walk away. Dr. Raj Bennett and Empress Thalara would rule as partners, transforming both their civilizations through their example. The strength protocol evolved into something new, a philosophy that recognized that true power came from lifting others up, not leaving them behind. And in the purple crystal forests of Centauri 9, where predators still hunted and the air still burned with metallic tang, their story became legend. A tale told by explorers and diplomats of how two people from different worlds found strength in each other's differences, and how love could indeed conquer the distances between stars. The war that Vizoth had tried to engineer never came. Instead, humanity and the Vazari forged an alliance that would endure for generations. It wasn't always easy. Old prejudices died hard, and there were those on both sides who viewed the union with suspicion. But Thalara and Raj had proven that cooperation was not weakness, that protecting the vulnerable was a form of strength that no military force could match. Their children would grow up in a galaxy where the color of blood, red or blue, mattered less than the character of the person who shed it, where the strength protocol had been replaced by something that recognized strength in all its forms. The strength to heal, the strength to protect, the strength to forgive, and most importantly, the strength to choose hope over fear. The crystal formations of Centauri 9 still glow with their inner light, casting purple shadows across the landscape. but they no longer glow alone. Human and Vazari settlements dot the planet's surface, now research stations and diplomatic outposts where young people from both species work side by side. Learning that the universe is vast enough for multiple definitions of strength. Dr. Raj Bennett kept his medical kit through it all, adding to it over the years. Beside the standard human supplies were Vazari medical tools and Obaishi-ins they'd discovered together. The kit became a symbol in its own right, a reminder that healing knows no boundaries, that compassion is a universal language. And Princess Thalara, who became Empress Thalara, never forgot the lesson she learned while crawling through crystal caves with a human doctor, that sometimes the greatest strength is knowing when to accept help, when to offer it, and when to change the very definition of what it means to be strong. Their love story wasn't just about two individuals from different worlds. It was about the love that could exist between civilizations, the bonds that could form when people chose to see strength in difference rather than threat. It was about the kind of love that could reshape empires and redefine cultures one act of compassion at a time. The purple forests of Centauri 9 had been the setting for their first real understanding of each other. And so they returned there each year on the anniversary of their meeting to walk the paths they'd once traveled in fear and desperation. Now they walked in hope their children, both biological and political, following behind, learning the stories of how their parents had chosen love over hatred, cooperation over domination, and strength through unity over strength through isolation. The Vazari Empire was transformed. The strength protocol remained, but it was a new version, one that recognized strength in all its forms. The strong protected the weak, not because they had to, but because they chose to. Because they understood that any civilization that discarded its vulnerable members was discarding part of its own soul. Dr. Raj Bennett and Empress Thalara had started as enemies, became allies, fell in love, and ended as partners in every sense of the word. Their story was carved into the crystal formations of Centauri 9, written in the stars, and whispered in the halls of power across the galaxy. And their greatest achievement wasn't the peace treaty, or the cultural transformation, or even the love they'd found in each other. It was the simple fact that they'd proven beyond any doubt that the universe was vast enough for hope, strong enough to bear the weight of change, and loving enough to embrace all its children. Regardless of how many hearts they had, what color their blood was, or what world had given them birth. In the end, the strength protocol lived on, not as a tool of abandonment, but as a commitment to building a strength that included everyone. The weak were no longer abandoned. They were given the tools and support to find their own strength. And the strong learned that their greatest power came not from standing alone, but from lifting others up beside them. The purple crystal trees of Centauri 9 still grow their leaves, singing in harmonies that span multiple octaves, a sound that some say resembles wedding bells. And in their shadows where a human doctor once carried a Vazari princess,